Hello, welcome to He's Hot But Something Is Off with me, just Joey T. Wow, it seems like everything has happened since the last time I dropped a podcast, which is every week. But so many things have happened. We had this massive global IT outage, and having been in corporate IT, like enterprise IT, for several years up until recently. That's kind of like if I worked for a company where we had affected machines, that was due to that outage from last Thursday night, Friday morning, where it really started hitting. It would have been like my ass on the line for that company, or my team for that company that would have been responsible for rushing around and fixing all those computers. So yeah, that was I was telling my friend, and it literally was the biggest kind of IT outage I've ever seen. Probably the biggest IT outage in decades. And honestly, computers haven't existed for that long in the way that we kind of sort of know it today. Even like 10 years ago, literally just 10 years ago, yeah, people had smartphones and there was the internet and all that kind of stuff. But if you told someone like the amount of computing power you can have in a phone today compared to was out there 10 or 15 years ago, that would just be like astonishing to some people. And the way like the internet has evolved, it's hard to think like, 10 years wasn't that long ago. We had the internet, people had phones, but like the kind of things you can do with your phone and with the internet nowadays, it's like 10 or 15 years ago, it would just like blow someone's mind. But like the way we use the internet with like our phones and everything being on the cloud and everything, that only happened about 20 years ago, 25 years ago is when it really kicked off, like the whole cloud computing type of thing, web apps and everything being online. And that was even before like the iPhone and before Android. If you go back about like 20 years ago, they had phones. They were starting to have smartphones-ish. But this was before Android was a thing, before an iPhone was even an idea probably. And they had like other companies. This was probably like right around BlackBerry 20 years ago. For the people out there who are like Gen Z and don't know what a BlackBerry is, well, I think they just came up with a BlackBerry movie, like a movie about the whole BlackBerry story, because it was such a cultural phenomenon when it came out. And it was like the phone to have for about a good like 3 to 5 years. But then that was like right before Android and iPhones came onto the scene. And so it was like BlackBerries before then. And before BlackBerries, we had like the Palm Trios, and we had like Windows Mobile and all that kind of stuff. So I'm totally geeking out on all the IT stuff. But yeah, it literally is like the worst IT outage I've ever seen in my lifetime. And yeah, just because so many things are dependent on computers nowadays. And it's just so one tiny little botch update. And computer systems, all sorts of electronics that are connected to the internet get updates all the time. If you have like a smart thermostat, a smart home, all the smart devices, they're connected to the internet 24/7. They are constantly getting updates from the manufacturer, whether you know it or not. A lot of them are just background updates. They run maybe in the middle of the night. They're designed to run in the background and designed to run at a time when you wouldn't notice it, because otherwise it'd be disruptive to your day. So, and just think about the amount of stuff in your house that's connected to the internet nowadays. I have an apartment. I don't have like a giant mansion or anything, but I do have like a smart-ish home. I have smart light switches. I have a smart thermostat. I have voice assistants, that kind of stuff. It just in my apartment, there's probably 50 to 60 devices powered on at any given time that's connected to the internet, and they are all grabbing updates all the time. So to have one tiny little update in one piece of software, that brings down, I think the figure was something like 8 point something million Windows computers were affected. And I think Microsoft gave this stat that it was 1% or less than 1% of all Windows machines. Well, the thing is, there are hundreds of millions of Windows machines out there. Windows has existed for ooh 30, 35, 40 years. When Microsoft Windows has existed for about like 35, 40 years. So obviously, over the course of 40 years, there's a shitload of computers out there running Windows. And yeah, it might be 1% of all the Windows machines out there globally, but that's enough to take down lots of big companies, hospitals, and airlines, and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that was really major. And the way it hit me though was I have a friend that had a family emergency and needed to book some travel really on really short notice, and I was helping them out with that. And it was Friday night or Saturday. It was Friday night that they're trying to get all this arrange all this travel, and that was when the IT outage was at its absolute worst. So I was trying to help them out any way I could with them. They did have a family emergency, unfortunately. Yeah, so that was weird. And then for those who are tuned into U.S. politics in any way, shape, or form, maybe even if you just watch the news, even if you don't live here, because this is probably headline news across most countries on the globe, is when President Biden decided to drop out of the re-election race. And yeah, so that was big, huge news. So I'm into politics only to the point because American politics, especially during an election year, in like the 6-ish months leading up to November when the election actually happens, it's like reality TV. I don't think elections in any other countries are so dramatized as it is in the US when it's a presidential election. There's so much going on that it's like juicy to follow it. You know what I mean? The last presidential election, when Biden was elected 4 years ago, I was not an American citizen. I was just Canadian at the time. So it was, I didn't have any skin in the game in a sense, but I was like a permanent resident, I had a green card in the US at the time. But I was just like watching from the sidelines in the sense that I couldn't vote because you have to be a citizen to vote. Now I am dual citizenship. I'm Canadian and I also have the American passports. I have both now. So I will be voting in November. And for the citizens who plan to vote, but there's people that, you know, they're more, not everybody votes. You know, a lot of people actually don't vote. But for people who follow it or people who want to vote, obviously this is, it kind of hits the reset button a little bit. And it's quite historic apparently that to have the incumbent candidate drop out at this stage, I believe. And that's super versed in like politics generally. And again, like I'm not super deep into politics actually. I just, you know, I do keep up on like the news, you know, just to keep up on the news. So, and this was making headlines everywhere. Actually, how I found out about Biden dropping out, I was on Twitter doing work. And Twitter, when you're on Twitter on a regular computer and a web browser, they've got a sidebar on the right side of the web page. And part of that sidebar on the right shows some of the trending topics. And it also shows if any of the people you follow are joined to any Twitter spaces, which is like a radio talk show, audio conference type of a thing that Twitter has. And I was just on Twitter doing something, and I noticed on the right that someone I follow was joined into a space that was discussing how Biden had just dropped out and endorsed Harris, the VP for the presidency. So that's how I actually found out. And then I went over to like the regular news websites like CNN or NBC or what have you. And then it was just in big bold letters across all the US news outlets, just huge headline that Biden had dropped out and Harris was had gotten his endorsement. So yeah, so between the ID outage and helping my friends, and then like this thing, that was like what? That was Sunday is when that news dropped. So in the span of 48 hours, it was just like a lot going on. So it was just weird. So yeah, there you go. A lot has happened. At least in the US, a lot of stuff has happened. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Kamala's positions are going to be. If they're going to be different from Biden's positions. I'm interested because I do plan to vote and I like to make educated decisions. I'm not talking about this. I'm only talking about this because it's just like big headline news, and that's why I bring this up, because it's like such huge news. I don't intend to talk about politics usually, but it was such big news, and it's just like so everywhere. And me myself as an American now, it just feels like I have to at least mention it because it's just so impactful. I feel like this development is so impactful to who's going to be running the United States of America for the next 4 years. So yeah, I felt like I'd throw something about that into the podcast. But anyways, switching gears a little bit, I know the last few episodes of the podcast have been very cruise focused, and I got some good feedback from y'all about some of those episodes and good viewing numbers on YouTube as well. Yeah, to remind everyone, feel free to put in any cruise related questions or comments or curiosities into the comment section of my YouTube channel, Just Joey T, on any of the podcast episodes that are out there. And that's also a plug for the video version of this podcast, which is available on that YouTube channel, Just Joey T, as well as on Spotify. If you're actually watching the video version right now, I always have to do something with my hair. I always have to figure out, okay, most of the time when I go to record a podcast, I may have went to the gym earlier that day, or I haven't left the house at all, now that I'm just working at home all the time. So usually my hair is not done up. And it's been a little while since I got a haircut. I just trimmed it myself a little bit, just around the edges. So today I was like, okay, should we wear a hat? Should we wear like a headband or something? And I was like, no, I don't think that many people are watching the video version of the podcast, so I don't have to do anything with my hair. I actually kind of like my hair longer like this. A lot of people tell me, there have been a few times where I've gone from long-ish hair, like how long it is right now. My hair is probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 inches long on top. Whenever I've gone quite a bit shorter with my haircut, some people that I will see afterwards, they'll say, oh, I like your hair shorter. It looks better. But when I get the long hair right, and for me, styling longer hair is easier than styling shorter hair. I can do so much less to the long hair and have it look decent. When I get the long hair styling right, I feel like it just looks so good. And I also feel like a lot of people can't pull off long hair. A lot of guys can't pull off long hair. So I was like, you should be thankful that you can do long hair and have it look good on you, but one day you're not going to have any hair left at all. So it's a little bit like that. So I feel like I'm going to keep the long hair for a little bit. I just need to get it cut before I go to South Korea, when I go to Seoul, which is, I think it's about 3 weeks. 3 weeks out, 3-ish weeks away, I'll be in Seoul, just doing a little visiting, work trip, technically, wink, wink. And I'm trying to brush up on my Korean a little bit. It's weird. When I go to Bangkok, I don't feel like I need to know any Thai. Because I think in Bangkok, at least the touristy parts of Thailand, people are so used to tourists coming in, but so much of the economy depends on it, and they really encourage it. So I feel like everyone Doesn't matter if you're at a restaurant or hotel or at like a 7-Eleven. In a place like Bangkok, they're just so used. Everyone's so used to having tourists coming in, and they know that tourists just like spends money and buy shit, that it's like never a problem. So like they're just always nice to you, very manly, very friendly, very soft spoken, regardless of what language you speak. Right. So I think that's one of the things that makes Thailand, at least in Bangkok, in my experience, so pleasant to visit. Even though you don't speak the local language. Obviously, if you go to a hotel or the slightly nicer restaurants, the likelihood that someone speaking English is like 90%, obviously. But even when you go off the beaten path a little bit within the city, people just deal with so many tourists there year round that like it's never a problem to like order food or to like get a coffee or to buy something. It's never a problem, even if you don't really speak the language. But I feel like for other countries in Asia, that's most other countries, just generally, that's not true. Like I can't go to Paris and just, I mean, I guess in Paris, maybe it's not a great example because they probably do speak English there. But I can't say, like Tokyo is the perfect example, I think. Because I've been in Tokyo once and not everyone in Tokyo speaks English. And Japan also, the culture is pretty unique in terms of like do's and don'ts and things like that compared to someone who's from like one of like the Western cultures, like from the US or from Canada, or from like Europe or whatever. That it's quite difficult to like, to go into, you can't go into a random restaurant, a random coffee shop, a random grocery store and just be able to like buy or order basic things without knowing some basic amounts of Japanese, for example. So yeah, I've been trying to brush up just little basic bits of Korean, not to learn the alphabet per se. I just want to know just enough Korean so that I can do the basics like hello, goodbye, thank you, may I have this one. I think the most advanced thing I want to learn is how to order a latte at a coffee shop. I think that's about as complicated as it gets. But yeah, I'm actually almost every night when I'm winding down, I like to do this thing where, okay, have dinner at like 8 p.m. or whatever. If there's any little bits of work I have to do or like little chores like pay the bills or whatever, I try to get that done. But I really, really love it when from 9 o'clock onwards until I go to bed around 11, I just have like quiet, alone, chill time where I can just zone out and do nothing. So I try very hard. If there's anything I need to get done or I know I should have gotten done that day, to really get it done, if not before dinner, then at least sometime before 9 o'clock, so that from like 9 o'clock onwards till I go to bed, I can just wind down. I can just have a nice relaxing evening. So I've been kind of using that wind down, relaxing time to just learn little bits of Korean. So it's going okay. The next thing I'm trying to learn are numbers. And apparently they have two separate number systems with different pronunciation. Luckily, one of them sounds like Mandarin, which I know. And it also kind of sounds like Cantonese, which I actually do know. So it'll be a little bit easier to learn one of the number systems, but then they have like another native Korean numbering system, which is like, it doesn't sound like any other languages I already know. So yeah, I'm working on that. So Seoul is coming up. I'm kind of excited for that. I haven't been on a plane in a while, which is kind of weird for me. I used to travel so often back when I had disposable income. I'd be on a plane once, maybe twice a month. It'd be, there'd be a few business trips throughout the year that I took all these vacations, all these personal trips out to Vancouver to see family, things like that. Obviously, I've had to cut back a little bit. But yeah, I'm I'm excited to get on that plane to Seoul. I booked myself on a Super Jumbo, the Airbus A380. I'm a little bit of an AV geek, an aviation geek. I'll read about planes and stuff sometimes just for fun. And I haven't been on the double decker, the A380, in quite a while. The last time I was on the A380, I got food poisoning. So I was coming back from Bangkok. I think this was 2017, 2018 over New Year's, when the White Party Bangkok. And I was taking flight back. Went from Bangkok to Seoul, and then from Seoul to LA, Los Angeles. Oh, it was just 2018. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I was in the lounge at the airport, at the Seoul airport. And I just boarded the plane, the A380. I was like way in the back in economy. And I was one of the earlier groups to board. Got seated. I was near the very back of the plane on a window seat. And shortly after I sat down in my seat, while the other half of the plane was still boarding, just that my stomach felt like a little bit weird. And that's when it started. So it's the only flight I've ever taken where I didn't eat anything. I literally refused all the food. And I love airplane food, you guys. Me and David, we both love airplane food. For some weird reason, I don't know. We just like it. So, but I refused all the food. It was from Seoul to LAX, so that was like, what, a 12 or 13-hour flight, something like that. But my stomach was just in knots. It was just horrible. And I remember when we got to LAX, my stomach was still hurting, but I didn't feel like throwing up. Because if I did feel like throwing up, I would have just like did it at the airport in the bathroom and just gotten it over with. But I was like, okay, I don't feel like throwing up. My stomach still hurts. Let's just hurry home. And I just take an Uber to get home. I didn't drive to the airport. They take an Uber to get home. During that fucking Uber ride was when my stomach decided it wanted to get nauseous and it wanted to throw up. So there were more than a few times during that. It was like a 40-minute ride from the airport to West Hollywood. There were several times during that car ride where I just had to try really hard to not throw up in this guy's Uber, Made it all the way home. I remember it was like a really sunny day. It was in the morning, like late morning, early evening, early afternoon. Bright sunshine that day. Very nice day in LA. And I got all the way home, and then I threw up. Isn't that a romantic story? Okay, but that was the last time I was on an A380. So I haven't flown on an A380 in many years now. So from an AV geek, an aviation enthusiast perspective, it's a bit of a special treat to fly the A380 because during the pandemic, some airlines just retired the A380s because they're not very fuel efficient. They have 4 engines. Most jets have 2 engines now. And they're just such massive planes that not all airlines can fill all the seats up. You need to fill up most of the seats on an airplane for it to really make sense. You need to fly a half-empty plane, you're probably losing money on it. So, yeah. But Asiana Airlines, which I'll be flying, they're still flying the A380, and they're flying it direct from LA to Seoul. So I'll be hopping on that flight. And the other trip that I have confirmed for right now is Taiwan for Pride. So I'll be going back to Taipei again. And I was just on the computer recently booking just like some stuff for that. I kind of want to go back to Bangkok for New Year's. But that's a maybe. That's a tentative. I'm just looking at flights and hotels and prices for things. New Year's is always super expensive to go anywhere. So if I can get some cheap-ish flights and if the hotel's not ridiculous. So every so often I'll go on to different websites for different airlines and look up how much the award fares are when you try to use miles and points to book a flight. So yesterday I found I could get a one-way flight coming back from Bangkok to LA for what was that? For 54,000 miles, which is actually not that bad considering, like it's halfway around the world. It's not the absolute cheapest fare, but it's actually, considering it's like in the middle of New Year's, it's like a very good price. So I just went ahead and booked that, and I can refund it if I decide not to go to Bangkok. So yeah, little things like that. I've always kind of sort of been into the points and miles stuff a little bit, but especially now that, I don't have as much money coming in as usual, and part of my work relies on me traveling. Yeah, I've had to just make sure to stretch not just every dollar, but every point and mile that I have in the various credit cards and accounts and things like that. And I'm doing like, I guess, a decent job. So it's so weird because I've got spreadsheets where it's like, okay, if I want to take this trip, the flights would cost this much in dollars, and it would cost this much in points or miles. And then I do the math on, okay, knowing those two numbers, how many cents per mile would this redemption be? Okay, it says would be better to spend cash money to book it because it's like way too many miles. I wouldn't be getting the dollars or cents worth out of those miles to book it on here. What about the hotels? Would be better to book the flights on using money, but then the hotels on points because it gets so complicated. I spent hours doing that, which I don't know if is the best usage of my time. So, and finally, in the Q&A last week, the final Q&A, which was not cruise related one, someone asked me how the business, the other business I was starting up, which was a business for actual tangible things I can sell and people can buy. So it's actually moving along, and I'm trying to get it onto Amazon. So getting things onto Amazon is quite a bit of work because the system they've got rules and regulations, and they have processes of how you get things into the warehouse. They have processes for how you list items onto the website. So it's kind of complicated. So I'm working through that, learning a lot at the same time. And surprisingly, their customer support is actually pretty decent for sellers. Their sellers' customer support is actually pretty decent. So there are different milestones. Basically, I feel like I'll hit road bumps. I expect the road bumps will come up from Amazon as I'm trying to set different things up like behind the scenes. And then I've been just basically like taking those roadblocks one at a time and just like resolving them. So far, I'm good on like all of them. But sometimes these roadblocks come up and it's like, if you don't fix it in a timely manner and in the right way, then it means like it could just derail the whole effort of selling on Amazon, to not go into like specific details. So, I've been spending a lot of my mental energy just learning how selling on Amazon works, learning all the processes of how to get things to be listed on Amazon, which is, it's almost like, it's a little bit like navigating a minefield. You don't know if you might step on something that might be a mine, because they have a lot of help documentation and videos and things, but it's such a complicated system, and there are all these rules and regulations that, like, to go through all the training and all the videos, like, you might as well take like a 4-year university course before you would know all the different things you might need to know about how to sell on Amazon. So honestly, it was more like, you know what, I just have to like try and just do it, be as careful as I can at the moment to like not step on one of these landmines, but that still ends up being like the most efficient way to do it, instead of just flipping through all the help pages and watching like 100 of their videos before I even start doing anything. So it's a little bit of, it's a lot of mental energy, let's put it that way. But things are moving along. We're very close to hitting the next major milestone, which is having the products shipped from the manufacturer to Amazon's warehouse. And once Amazon has it in their warehouse, then we're ready to sell. Like the items can be made available on Amazon or on my own website that I'm building for the company. So yeah, we're very close. Originally, I thought we would have went online in April or May, but that's before I opened the whole can of Amazon worms. But now I actually am pretty confident that we can launch in September, October. That's the timeline that I'm targeting. And once that is available, once like we're actually ready to sell, the website is up, the company is up. I also have to set up things like customer support, customer service, setting up the website. So writing all the copies. I need to take photos of all the different products to post online. I need to get the Instagram account going. I need to get probably the TikTok account going. I got to get all this stuff. But I'm thinking September or October. And as we get closer to the launch, I will let everybody know. There's still this part in my head that's like, oh my God, starting a business, there's like so much to do. You have no experience doing this. This is so difficult. You're going to mess something up. It's going to be impossible. But literally just have to do a combination of two things in my head. Like every single day I have to do this. Ignore the demons in my head that are saying that. Like straight up ignore. It's like, this is like how celebrities feel when they come out of a building and or the courthouse, and they're bombarded by reporters with like flashing cameras and everything. You just have to like walk right past. You have to do like the most fierce like Beyonce walk out of a building with like 100 reporters all trying to like get cameras and mics in your face or whatever. But like you literally just have to like tunnel vision and just like strut and walk past the fuck out of everyone when it's none of their business. The second thing I have to do is basically reassure myself. It's like, yes, you can do it. You're a smart person. You're an intelligent person. Like lots and lots of other people have started their businesses. You're not trying to like send a rocket to the moon. You're just selling something on Amazon, which lots and lots of people sell stuff on Amazon. It is not such a difficult or unattainable thing to do. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So, all right. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about, honestly, when I started this podcast. The last 3 episodes, like I said, have been very like focused, and I came with an outline. I had on my computer. I actually sat down on Google Docs and wrote, okay, this is going to be about this cruise. These are the things I'm going to talk about. All the things, even for the Q&A last week, I actually outlined the answers to every single question that I picked, so that I didn't go off completely off the rails answering all the questions. I'll have my computer here. But yeah, it's just nice. This is why I started the podcast. I just wanted to talk and ramble, and just, if I want to go off on a tangent, I'll just go off on a tangent. You know what? Because this is my podcast and not your podcast. Until next time, bye.